I've received a lot of comments and private messages in regard to my last video about Mikey Knows and Michael Melnish. So I'm going to give my take and opinion on it. Many people place blame on Michael Melnish for going with a friend's girl, but let's take a step back. This woman was married to Joey Lubrano, who's a member of the Lucchese family. With that being said, if we go by Cosa Nostra rules, Mikey Knows, being a member of Cosa Nostra, must obey those rules. One of which is, do not go with another member's wife or girl. There's no stipulation added when you're being told that rule. For example, you're not told only if they're divorced or broken up. Here's why. This is an extremely big world we live in, and according to statistics, 49.5% of the population is women. There were plenty of women Mikey Knows could have chosen to be with besides the ex-wife of a fellow member. Again, I repeat the words, a boss is supposed to lead by example. Let me give you a scenario. You're an inducted member of the Bonanno family, and you decide you want to make a few moves pushing packages. Money's tight on the street, and you need to make quick money. Your business comes to the attention of your boss, Mikey Knows. He calls you in and begins to give you a tongue lashing, even threatens to shelve you over this. He tells you that you're violating the rules. You leave that meeting and you think about how you and everyone else knows who your boss is dating. What do you think your opinion of your boss is going to be? One word: hypocrite. The first person to blame is Mikey Knows. He had no business going with that woman. His next big mistake was reaching out to Joey and Michael Melnish, asking them to keep an eye on this woman. Not wise. Number one, he's tipping his hand that no one else is keeping an eye on her. And two, he's making it known that she needed to be watched. I'll get back to Mikey Knows, but let's take a look at Michael Melnish. He started going with this woman who happened to be dating his former Purple Gang associate. I know morally it's not the best decision he made, but let's not forget something. Michael Melnish is not a member, he's an associate. Do associates deal drugs? Yes. There's many things that an associate does that a member can't. Also, Michael Melnish is fully aware that Mikey Knows is breaking a rule by going with Joey Lubrano's ex. If brought to a sit-down, how can anybody give him wrong if he points this out? Anyone at the table knows he's right. Back to Mikey Knows. We know he sent several threatened messages, which he only further embarrassed himself because the threats did no good. He's a boss sending an associate a threat that was blatantly ignored. Then he decides to let his emotions get the best of him and writes a letter to Melnich's wife, exposing his extramarital affair. Obviously, after his threats were ignored, in his head he said, "Oh yeah, now I'm going to tell your wife." As far as a boss goes, this is not the way his mind should be thinking. After all else fails, he has Michael Melnish assaulted at the feast, in front of Rayo's of all places. By all of the above, he disrespected the Lucchese family and embarrassed himself in the process. I mentioned leading by example, and he taught his family members that it's okay to act disrespectfully. So what do? They further disrespect the Lucchese family by storming their social club, and once inside, they disrespect the whole Lucchese administration. But like children, this is what's called learned behavior. Let's not forget, what was going on was not a secret. Wise guys are the biggest washwoman. So the Bonannos, knowing their boss, who's in prison, dating a member's ex-wife, and is now in a love triangle with the boss of the old Purple Gang, who happens to be a Lucchese associate, knowing about the threats he's made, the unbelievable letter that he sent, and his ordering members to publicly assault Melnish, not one of them said, wait a minute, this is the guy who's going to get out and be our boss? Do we really want that? For the future and better of their family, they should have taken Mikey Knows down as boss. And there was nothing he would be able to do about that. For some reason, and this doesn't only apply to the mob, but life itself, some people follow ignorance rather than intelligence. Let's talk about Maddie. At the time, he was a person in the acting boss position, also supposed to be leading by example. While this whole disaster was brewing, it wasn't prevailing heads that was needed, it was prevailing minds. And Maddie by no means is unintelligent, but even smart people do stupid things. I would say even me, but I don't want to toot my own horn. And yes, I've made plenty of mistakes. Maddie should have advised Michael Melnish to stop dating this woman. And he just might have, so I don't want to assume that he didn't. But that's the first course of action. If he's an associate, you got to put him in check. As soon as the threats started happening, Maddie should have reached out to the Bonanno administration and sat with them about this issue. And as to the beating, Maddie didn't just hear about it, he witnessed it. I know he's up in age, but he could have intervened. They didn't just hit Michael Melnish, they tuned him up pretty good. Instead of going around telling everyone Mikey Knows was a rat for sending a letter, again, Maddie should have sat with the Bonanno administration. He did tell one member of the administration that they needed to take Mikey Nose down, but that wasn't his call or place to suggest. But what Maddie did do is he tells this self-made genius that not only is his boss a rat, but the Lucchese family is not recognizing him. The social club incident can't be blamed on the Bonanno administration because it was the decision of people who don't belong in that life. They're more fit to be in a street gang, or as Johnny Sideburns would say about them, they should go get jackets with colors on them. So as far as Maddie goes, he definitely added fuel to an already burning fire. He allowed another family to threaten and assault an associate, and then allowed them to barge into the social club and disrespect the entire administration. In my opinion, Mikey Nose, Michael Melnish, and Maddie Madonna are all to blame, but not equally so. The person at fault the most is Mikey Nose. He had no business going with Lobrano's ex. Speaking of which, I have a big announcement to make on the subject of that rule. It'll definitely shock most people, so stay tuned. Anyway, Mikey Nose is guilty of many errors in judgment. What he failed to realize is men will be men and women will be women. It's human nature. Even if his first threats were, and Melnish stays away, what's going to stop the next guy from coming along? He didn't carry himself like a boss should, like by cutting his ties with this woman as soon as he heard she was seen with another guy. He should have swallowed his pride, remained quiet, and finished his remaining time. And then when he got out, if he felt the need, discreetly deal with Melnish. Instead, he demonstrated selfishness and no regard for living that life as a boss. So in my final conclusion, Mikey Nose is the biggest culprit. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I always say, please remember to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you could do that as well. And if you think this video may interest friends and family, please share it and thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and I'll catch you on the next one. You can subscribe to the Sit Down News blog at sitdownnews.com and I appreciate everyone who has subscribed. Thank you. Well, just another example in the mob you never knew about.